Alright guys, so today we're going to be learning a little bit about the Silk Route. Today we're going to be going back in time to the year 700 AD, about 1300 years ago. Suppose you wanted to travel between eastern China and the Middle East, and there are no cars, trains, buses, or airplanes. Here's what the map or route actually looked like. Which route do you think you would take? Traders in the year 700 had to make the same decision you just did, how to get from China to Turkey. Look at the map on the inside cover of the Silk Route. Explain why you think the traders did not travel in a straight path between the two locations. So what is your role today? While we read the story of the Silk Route, you'll be asked to act out your assigned role. Your role card is specific to an assigned city. Here are some of the stops that we'll be taking along the way. Here's again what the map looks like. Starting with the Tang Dynasty. The Chinese people called their country the Middle Kingdom, but people in the West called China the Land of Silk. Among all of China's many gifts to the world civilization, like paper, printing, gunpowder, and a great deal more, silk was the most highly prized in the ancient Western world. Silk cloth was invented in China around 3000 BC. No one knows who made the first silk cloth. Many Chinese people believed it was invented by the Silkworm Empress. She was the wife of the Yellow Emperor, the mythical founder of the Chinese civilization. On farms all over China, men grow grain, while women produce silk. They tend groves of mulberry trees and feed the leaves to the silkworms. When the silkworms mature, they make cocoons of silk, which women collect and boil. Then the women unreel the delicate strand of silk from each cocoon, spin it into thread, and weave it into silk cloth. Farmers pay their taxes in grain and silk. Stop 1.
The Silk Roads is the name given to the 5,000-mile-long network of trade routes that connected East Asia, Central Asia, and Europe during the 13th and 14th centuries. In the East, the Silk Roads began in the ancient city of Chang'an. From there, caravans of traders carried silk, tea, and pottery westward, sometimes crossing the mountains and deserts of Central Asia and the Middle East.
Chang'an. During the Tang Dynasty, bolts of plain white silk of standard width and length were used as a kind of money. The government used silk to pay officials' salaries and also exported silk along the Silk Route to Central Asia, where it was traded for fine horses for the imperial army. In the capital city of Chang'an, merchants get a caravan ready to go to the west. Officials watch while workers take bolts of silk from a government warehouse and load them onto camels. The merchants who will join the caravan buy many things in the city market to trade privately along the way. These trade goods include porcelain, dried rhubarb, and other herbal medicines, and fancy silk cloth woven in colors and patterns, especially designed to suit the tastes of the Islamic and Byzantine worlds.
Caravans would often stop at Dunhuang to purchase supplies and to pray for safe travel at the nearby Buddhist cave temples. Religious practices like Islam, Buddhism, and Christianity spread from the Silk Roads. To the ancient Chinese, Dunhuang was considered the edge of the civilized world.
The journey begins. The caravan includes many private merchants as well as Chinese government officials, like the covered wagon trains of the American West. members of the caravan travel together to help one another on the long, dangerous journey. Along the way, they will face heat, hunger, thirst, and the ever-present possibility of bandit raids. New members of the original caravan will travel all the way to the Mediterranean. The silk and other goods they are bringing from China will change hands several times along the way. The caravan begins its journey, which will take many months. It is early spring. The caravan must get beyond the fierce western deserts before the heat of the summer arrives. Leaving the city walls of Chang'an behind, it passes through rich farmland. A Buddhist temple is on a nearby hillside.
After leaving Dunhuang, travelers began the treacherous journey around the Taklamakan Desert. Caravans chose either northern or southern routes to avoid crossing the desert itself. The name Taklamakan means, if you go in, you won't come out. It is one of the driest deserts in the world, and its shifting sand dunes have buried entire cities.
Dunhuang. The Buddhist religion came to China from India along the Silk Route around 100 A.D. The oasis town of Dunhuang, for centuries an important trading and supply center for caravans, soon grew into a great religious center as well. Hundreds of Buddhist cave temples were cut into soft rock of a nearby cliff. The cave temples contain Buddhist statues. The walls are decorated with bright religious paintings. Some of the merchants go to the cave temples of Dunhuang to pray for a safe journey, while others buy supplies in the town market. Some Chinese officials take charge of the small herd of horses brought from the west by another caravan. They will escort the horses back to the capital. Other officials will continue west to purchase still more of them.
Those who survived the desert crossing reached the oasis city of Kashgar, located at the midway point of the Silk Roads. In the city's markets, traders from the east and west hoped to spread
The Taklamakan is one of the world's driest deserts. Its name means if you go in, you won't come out. In Turkish, one of the main languages of Central Asia. The caravan skirts the northern edge of the desert, just south of the snow-capped peaks of the Tian Shan Mountains. The route is very rough, passing along sand dunes, across rocky flats, and through tangled willow thickets along dry riverbeds. But the caravan's two-humped Bactrian camels are strong and hardy. They are used to this difficult country. Many of the camels and camel drivers that set out from Chang'an turned back at Dunhuang. The merchants hired new ones for this stage of the journey, along with extra animals to carry food and water for crossing the desert. Such changes of men and animals will occur several times along the way from China to Damascus. Kashgar.
Traditions, art, and culture. Inventions such as gunpowder, paper, and the magnetic compass also gained popularity along the Silk Roads.
Kashgar is hot and tired after their trip along the Taklamakan Desert. The men and animals hurry to reach the oasis city of Kashgar. The pastures near the city are dotted with grazing animals and camps of herding peoples. Uyghurs in round felt yurts, Turkmens and Tibetans in black tents. Kashgar is famous for its fruit, dates, melons, and grapes that are grown in irrigated fields and vineyards. Everyone in the caravan looks forward to fresh food and water. Some of the Chinese members of the caravan will end their journey here. They trade silk for dried dates, raisins, jade, and other local products to bring back to China. Others will continue on toward the west, joined by new merchants, guards, and camel drivers with fresh animals from Kashgar. The Pamir Mountains are a range of high mountains in eastern Afghanistan. Here the route winds through narrow, high-walled valleys behind rushing rivers.
Some caravans continued the journey west to the feared Pamir Mountains, also known as the Trail of Bones. Here travelers faced narrow rocky ledges, snowstorms, avalanches, and gangs of bandits. Some religious groups developed martial arts to protect their temples and traders against bandits.
Tashkent, Kingdom of Fergana. In the central market of Tashkent, the last remaining Chinese officials in the caravan trade bolts of silk for horses that they will take back to China. The horses of Fergana are considered by Chinese military leaders to be the strongest and toughest in the world. Tashkent marks the eastern edge of the Persian cultural world. Some private merchants trade Chinese silk, porcelain, and other goods for Persian metalwork, glass, and musical instruments. They too will head back to China from here. Transoxiana. After making another stop in the city of Samarkand, the caravan enters the wild country east of the Oxus River. No government rules this land. The nomads who live here will rob caravans if they get a chance to. Suddenly, the caravan is attacked by a group of Turkoman bandits on horseback. After a fierce fight, with swords and bows and arrows, the bandits are driven off. But some members of the caravan have been killed or wounded, and the bandits escape with a few heavily laden camels. Herat. In this thriving Persian city, artisans produce fine metalwork, glassware, carpets, and other goods that can be sold for a high price in China. Herat is also, for the moment, on the eastern edge of the rapidly expanding Islamic world. A newly built mosque looms over the city market. Merchants from the caravan mingle in the market with local merchants and Turkoman nomads, as well as Arabs from Baghdad and Damascus. Traders from India are here too, selling spices and brightly dyed Indian cloth. Muslim imams, Zoroastrian priests, Nestorian Christian priests, and Buddhist monks tend to the religious needs of the cosmopolitan city. The caravan will leave its last Bactrian camel in Herat. For the rest of the journey they will use dromedaries, the one-humped camels of Western Asia.
Many travelers from the east ended their journey in Ctesiphon, a hub of land and sea trade. Ships delivered Indian spices and printed cloth, and merchants traded ivory, gold, and pearls from the Middle East and Africa. From Ctesiphon, some traders returned back east, while others continued west to Mediterranean trading cities.
Ctesiphon is just another word for Baghdad. In Damascus, Arab merchants have brought bolts of silk from Baghdad to Damascus. Only the finest silk cloth has traveled this far. It includes intricately patterned brocades, brilliantly colored satins, and thin gauze to make nightgowns for aristocratic ladies. Wealthy Muslim women, heavily veiled, admire bolts of finished silk cloth in a shop. In the port city of Tyre, on the Mediterranean coast of Lebanon, goods are loaded on ships bound for cities far to the west. Some of the silk that was traded in the market at Damascus will be sent to Byzantium, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. Byzantium. In the main hall of a splendid palace, a Byzantium nobleman receives a visit from the bishop of the Orthodox Christian Church, both are dressed in rich garments of silk brocade. The palace women remain in an inner courtyard out of sight of the men. A visiting prince from Russia, far to the north, awaits his turn to speak to the nobleman. Perhaps he will receive a small present of silk to take back home with him. These two empires are linked by trade.